I'm standing in a Toronto courtroom on a gray November morning, watching my daughter prepare to testify. She's 23 now, poised and composed in a way that makes my chest tight with pride. The respondent, that's what they call me in legal documents, sits beside my lawyer, trying to keep my hands from shaking. The petitioner, my soon-to-be ex-wife, sits across the aisle with her attorney, looking confident. Too confident. My daughter, Claire, steps up to the witness stand. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, regards her with mild curiosity. Claire has asked permission to present evidence, and after some discussion with the lawyers, the judge has allowed it. Your Honor, Claire begins, her voice steady. I've been documenting my mother's activities for the past 4 years. With your permission, I'd like to present what I've found. My wife Catherine shifts in her seat. I see the first flicker of uncertainty cross her face. Our lawyer had mentioned Claire wanted to testify, but Catherine had laughed it off. What's she going to say? That I was a bad mother? Claire pulls out a tablet and a small external drive. I have audio recordings, video footage, financial documents, and a complete timeline. It's all organized chronologically. The judge nods. Proceed. I should probably start from the beginning. I'm Robert Chen, 62 years old, recently retired from a career in civil engineering. I spent 35 years designing bridges and infrastructure across Ontario. Catherine and I met in 1985 when I was a junior engineer and she was working as a legal secretary. We married in 1987, and Claire was born in 2001, when I was 39 and Catherine was 35. For years, our marriage seemed solid. We lived in a comfortable house in Oakville, just west of Toronto. I worked long hours, often traveling to project sites, while Catherine eventually left her job to focus on raising Claire and managing our household. We weren't wealthy, but I made good money. We had retirement savings, RRSPs, a paid-off mortgage, and Claire's RESP, her education fund, was fully funded at nearly $140,000. But let me tell you what I didn't know. I didn't know that Catherine had been unhappy for years. I didn't know she found our life boring. I didn't know that in 2018, when Claire was 17, Catherine had joined a gym and hired a personal trainer named Marcus Webb. And I certainly didn't know that by early 2019, she was having an affair with him. Marcus was 28 years old, 5 years younger than our daughter is now. That detail still makes my stomach turn. Claire discovered it by accident. It was March 2020, right when the pandemic was starting. Claire was 19, home from university because everything had gone online. Catherine told me she was going to the grocery store, but she forgot her phone at home. When it rang, Claire answered, thinking it might be important. Hey, beautiful, when are you coming over? A man's voice said. Claire, confused, said, I think you have the wrong number. There was a pause. Then the man Marcus said, Is this Catherine's phone? This is her daughter. He hung up immediately. Claire told me she sat there for 20 minutes, trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was a friend. But something in his tone had been too familiar, too intimate. When Catherine came home 2 hours later, she was flushed and happy, humming to herself. She took her phone from Claire without comment. That night, Claire told me, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about that phone call. The next day, while Catherine was out again, running errands, Claire did something she'd never done before. She checked the family computer, the one Catherine used for banking and email. Catherine had been careless. She was still logged into her personal email. Claire found messages going back months, explicit messages, plans to meet, Marcus saying he loved her, Catherine saying she couldn't wait to leave her boring old husband and start a new life. Claire printed everything. Then she realized something worse. In one email, Catherine had written to Marcus, Don't worry about money. I've been setting things aside for years. Once the divorce goes through, we'll have enough to start fresh. Robert won't even know what hit him. That's when Claire started investigating our finances. She knew the passwords because she'd helped me set up online banking years ago. We'd never changed them. She was horrified by what she found. Over the past 5 years, Catherine had been systematically draining accounts. Small amounts at first, so I wouldn't notice. Then, larger sums. She'd transferred money from our joint savings to accounts in her name only. She'd taken out credit cards I didn't know about, racking up debt in my name. And worst of all, she'd emptied Claire's RESP, the education fund I'd been contributing to for 19 years, transferring the entire $140,000 to an account I'd never heard of. Claire told me later that she sat in her bedroom that night, crying silently so we wouldn't hear. She felt like her whole childhood had been a lie, but she didn't tell me. Not yet. Dad was so trusting, Claire says now, from the witness stand. Mom handled all the finances. He worked so hard, traveled so much, that he never thought to question her. Why would he? They'd been married 33 years. She's right. I was a fool. In engineering, we calculate for stress loads, for worst-case scenarios, for things that could go wrong. But in my marriage, I never suspected a thing. When Catherine said we needed to tighten our belts because expenses were high, I believed her. When she said Claire's education fund was doing well, I trusted her. When she scheduled girls' spa days on weekends, I was happy she was taking time for herself. Claire continues her testimony. I realized I needed more than just emails and bank statements. I needed proof of the ongoing affair, proof that she was planning to defraud my father. So I started recording. Over the next 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, my daughter became a detective. She installed a voice-activated recording app on her old phone and hid it in the living room. She set up a small camera, disguised as a charging station, in the kitchen. She photographed documents when Catherine wasn't looking. She tracked every suspicious transaction. During the pandemic, this was easier because we were all home. Catherine would sometimes take calls in the backyard, thinking no one could hear. Claire would watch from her bedroom window, recording. She documented Catherine meeting Marcus in parking lots when she claimed to be at the store. She recorded phone conversations where Catherine discussed their future together, where they'd live, how she'd take me for everything in the divorce. But the worst was yet to come. In mid-2021, Claire discovered that Catherine was actively sabotaging our marriage in ways I never realized. She was telling our neighbors that I had a drinking problem. She was telling her friends that I was emotionally abusive. She was building a narrative, creating a story that would justify her leaving and ensure she'd get a favorable settlement in divorce. Claire recorded it all. She documented Catherine coaching herself before meetings with a divorce lawyer. She captured Catherine on camera, going through my home office, looking for things she could use against me. At one point, Catherine told Marcus over the phone that she was considering claiming I'd been violent toward her, that it would guarantee she'd get everything. That recording still makes my blood run cold. Claire kept all of this to herself for 4 years. Can you imagine? A teenager, then a young woman, carrying that weight alone. She told me later why she waited. She needed to be absolutely certain. She needed enough evidence that Catherine couldn't lie her way out of it. She needed to wait until she was old enough, mature enough, credible enough as a witness. And she needed to document a pattern, not just isolated incidents. I had no idea. None. As far as I knew, my marriage was simply fading. Catherine seemed distant, but I chalked it up to empty nest syndrome after Claire moved out for university in 2021. We'd grown apart, I thought. It happens. When Catherine asked for a divorce in August 2024, I was sad but not entirely surprised. These things happen after so many years, I told my brother on the phone. We just want different things now. Catherine filed for divorce on September 15th, 2024. Her petition claimed irreconcilable differences and cited my workaholic tendencies and emotional unavailability as contributing factors. She requested half of all marital assets, spousal support, and sole possession of our home. Her lawyer was aggressive, well prepared. My lawyer was concerned. She's got a narrative, he told me. She's claiming you neglected her for decades, that she sacrificed her career for the marriage, that she deserves to be compensated for years of being underappreciated. I didn't fight it. I felt guilty, actually. Maybe I had been too focused on work. Maybe I hadn't been attentive enough. Maybe Catherine deserved to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. That's what I thought until 3 weeks before the final hearing. Claire came to my apartment. I'd moved out of the house, at Catherine's request, was living in a small rental near Lake Ontario. Claire sat me down at my kitchen table, and for the first time in 4 years, she told me everything. I didn't believe her at first. It was too much, too calculated. Catherine might have fallen out of love with me, but fraud? Theft? A man young enough to be her son? A plan to frame me as abusive? Then Claire showed me the evidence. Hours of recordings, bank statements showing hundreds of thousands of dollars moved to accounts I'd never approved. photos of Catherine with Marcus, emails discussing their future life together, funded by my retirement savings and our daughter's education fund. I was sick, physically sick. I went to the bathroom and vomited. When I came back, Claire was crying. "I should have told you sooner," she said. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I just wanted to make sure we had enough to prove it. I couldn't let her get away with it." We went to my lawyer the next day. He reviewed everything Claire had compiled. I watched his face go from skeptical to stunned to furious. "This is fraud," he said. "This is theft. This is criminal. We need to bring this to the judge immediately." He filed an emergency motion. Claire would be called as a witness. We'd present everything at the final hearing, scheduled for November 18th, 2024. Catherine had no idea what was coming. Now, in the courtroom, Claire is walking through her evidence methodically. She starts with the affair. She plays a recording from April 2020, Catherine's voice clear as day. "I can't wait to be done with Robert. He's so predictable, so boring. You make me feel alive again, Marcus. Once I get the house and the money from the divorce, we can finally be together properly." Catherine's face goes white. Her lawyer whispers urgently in her ear, but she shakes her head, stunned. Claire continue. She shows the financial trail. Transfers from our joint account to Catherine's private account, always just under $10,000 to avoid triggering bank alerts. Over $160,000 moved over 3 years. Credit cards opened in my name without my knowledge. Racked up to nearly $80,000 in debt. And the RESP Claire's education fund completely emptied in June 2022. The money transferred to an account at a different bank. "My mother took the money my father had been saving for my education since I was born," Claire says, her voice cracking for the first time. $140,000. Money he put aside from every paycheck for 19 years. She transferred it to an account with Marcus Webb's name on it. The judge leans forward. "You're saying your mother moved your education funds to an account shared with her boyfriend?" "Yes, Your Honor. I have the bank records." Claire submits the documents. The courtroom is silent, except for the rustle of paper as the judge reviews them. Catherine is whispering frantically to her lawyer now, but he looks as blindsided as everyone else. Then Claire moves to the most disturbing part. The plans to frame me. In March 2023, Claire says, "My mother discussed with Marcus the possibility of claiming my father had been violent toward her. She said it would strengthen her case for the divorce settlement." She plays the recording. Catherine's voice, casual and calculated. "My lawyer said, if there's any history of abuse, I'd get everything. Maybe I should say Robert pushed me once, or threatened me. Who's going to question it? I'm the victim of a cold, workaholic husband." Marcus's voice responds, "Are you sure? That seems risky." Catherine laughs. "It's not like he can prove he didn't. It's my word against his, and I've already told half our friends that he has a temper." The judge's expression hardens. "Do you have evidence she acted on these plans?" "She started telling people my father had a drinking problem and was emotionally unstable," Claire says. "I have recordings of her telling her sister, her friends, even our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. She was building a false narrative. I also have text messages where she discussed researching domestic violence claims and what evidence she'd need." Claire submits printed text messages. Screenshots of Catherine's Google searches. How to prove emotional abuse in divorce. Can you win divorce case claiming husband was threatening? Domestic violence laws, Ontario. The judge looks at Catherine. "Do you have anything to say?" Catherine's lawyer starts to speak, but Catherine interrupts. "This is insane. Claire, honey, I don't know what you think you found, but you're misinterpreting. I have 4 years of evidence," Claire says quietly. "Audio, video, financial records, text messages, emails, and testimony from witnesses who can confirm dates and times. This isn't a misinterpretation. This is fraud and theft and planning to commit perjury." Catherine stands abruptly. "I need a recess. I need to speak with my attorney." "Sit down, Mrs. Chen," the judge says sharply. "We're not finished." But Catherine doesn't sit. She looks panicked now, her confidence completely shattered. She glances at the courtroom door. Then, incredibly, she bolts. She actually runs for the exit. The bailiff moves faster, intercepting her before she reaches the doors. There's a brief struggle, and Catherine starts screaming. This is a setup. She's lying. Robert put her up to this. The bailiff escorts her back to her seat, and the judge orders her to remain seated or be held in contempt. Catherine collapses into her chair, crying now. Her lawyer looks like he wants to disappear. The hearing continues for another hour. My lawyer presents our case for the return of all stolen funds. We provide documentation showing every unauthorized transfer, every secret credit card, every lie Catherine told to financial institutions. Claire's recordings are entered as evidence. The education fund theft is laid out in detail. Catherine's lawyer tries to mount a defense, arguing that, as my wife, Catherine had a legal right to access marital funds. But the rest? That's specifically protected education money. The credit cards in my name without my signature? Fraud. The plans to file false abuse claims? Potential perjury? The judge calls a recess to review everything. We wait for 3 hours. Claire sits beside me, holding my hand. She's exhausted, emotionally drained from reliving 4 years of secrets. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, she whispers again. You did exactly what you needed to do, I tell her. You protected both of us. I'm so proud of you, Claire. So proud. When we return to the courtroom, the judge has made her decision. She grants me the divorce. Catherine receives nothing. Not half the house, not spousal support, not a penny of retirement savings. Everything she stole must be returned. The house is mine. The debts in my name are voided. Catherine is responsible for them. But that's not all. The judge refers the case to the Crown Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. Fraud, theft, forgery, these are criminal matters. Catherine could face charges. As for the RESP money, tracking it down will take time, but the court orders Catherine to repay every dollar with interest. The money she transferred to Marcus's account? That's being seized. Catherine is sobbing openly now. Her lawyer is already talking about appeals, but there's nothing to appeal. The evidence is overwhelming. As we leave the courthouse, Claire and I walk out into the November afternoon. The air is cold, crisp. I can see my breath. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe properly. What happens now? Claire asks. Now? I put my arm around her shoulders. Now we rebuild. I get our home back. You get your education money back. And we both get to move forward without lies. Over the next several months, the legal process continued. Catherine was charged with fraud and theft. The trial was set for March 2025. Marcus Webb, as an accomplice, was also charged. Catherine eventually pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. She received 8 years for fraud and embezzlement. Marcus got 3 years. I sold the house in Oakville. Too many memories, too much pain. I bought a smaller place in Hamilton, near the waterfront. Claire's RESP money was recovered, most of it. Anyway, enough for her to finish her degree and start graduate school. Claire is doing well now. She graduated with honors in psychology and is applying to law schools. She says what happened with Catherine made her want to help others who've been victimized by people they trust. She's in a relationship with a young man named Thomas, a law student she met at a seminar about financial abuse in marriages. They're good together. He knows everything that happened, and he admires Claire's strength. As for me, I'm retired now, truly retired. I volunteer with a local organization that helps men going through difficult divorces. I share my story not for sympathy, but as a warning. I tell men to stay involved in their finances, to question things that don't add up, to trust, yes, but verify. I tell them to maintain their own bank accounts, to review credit reports, to ask questions. Marriage is a partnership, I tell them, but that doesn't mean blind faith. You can love someone and still protect yourself. I also talk about the importance of communication. I own my part in what went wrong. I was too focused on work. I did let Catherine handle everything at home. I didn't make enough effort to stay connected. Those things didn't justify what she did. Nothing justifies fraud and betrayal, but they contributed to the distance between us. If I'd been more attentive, more involved, maybe things would have been different. Maybe she wouldn't have strayed. Maybe she wouldn't have felt justified in stealing from us. I'll never know. What I do know is that moving forward, I'm different. I'm more present, more aware, more careful. Claire and I are closer than ever. We have dinner together every week. She calls me almost daily. Sometimes we talk about Catherine, but mostly we don't. Catherine is serving her sentence at Grand Valley Institution for Women in Kitchener. I haven't spoken to her since the trial. I have nothing to say. Claire hasn't contacted her either. Maybe someday, when Catherine is released, they'll talk. Maybe not. That's Claire's choice to make. I've learned some hard lessons these past few years. I've learned that love doesn't mean you surrender all control. I've learned that trust is good, but accountability is better. I've learned that children see more than we think, understand more than we give them credit for, and sometimes have more courage than adults do. Most importantly, I've learned that it's never too late to start over. I'm 63 now. I thought my life was over when Catherine asked for divorce. I thought I'd spend my retirement alone, sad, diminished. But that's not what happened. I have my home, I have my dignity, I have my daughter's respect and love, and I have peace. For anyone going through something similar, I want you to know this. Financial abuse is real. Emotional manipulation is real. And you don't have to accept it just because you've been together for decades. You don't have to stay silent just because you love someone. Love shouldn't cost you your security, your peace of mind, or your future. Stay vigilant, stay involved, ask questions, review statements, know where your money is going, and if something feels wrong, don't dismiss it. Trust your instincts. And if you have children, trust them too. They see things we don't, they understand things we miss. Claire saved my life, in a very real way. She saved my future, and she did it because she loved me enough to act, even when it was hard, even when it was scary, even when it meant exposing her own mother. That's the kind of courage we should all aspire to. The courage to stand up for what's right, even when it costs us something, even when it hurts, even when it's family. I'm grateful for Claire. I'm grateful for second chances. And I'm grateful that despite everything, despite 33 years of marriage, ending in betrayal and fraud, I can still believe in honesty, in justice, and in the possibility of starting fresh. The best revenge, they say, is living well. So that's what I'm doing, living well, moving forward, and hoping that by sharing my story, I can help someone else avoid the same pain, or at least help them find the courage to face it if they must. Truth matters. Justice matters. And sometimes, it takes a brave child to remind us of that.